Hey everybody, Captain B-Nard here with your BHDL2 Week 1 recap and Week 2 preview. So, as I mentioned before, the weekly recap and preview videos are back for this season of the BHDL, and so we're going to do these basically the same way that we did last season in the BHDL 1, where I'm going to kind of go over what I think are the important points of the weekly game this week, and then of course do a little bit of a preview into next week's game. So pretty straightforward, pretty familiar territory here. So that being said, we're going to go ahead and get it started. And so our week one opponent here was RK9er slash Jesse, a strong competitive battler from Discord, and as well we have played him once before, actually back in the BHDL 1 tournament. And so, unfortunately, we did end up losing this game 2-0, but it was a very close, very competitive, very hard-fought game. And but unfortunately, we were just not able to get it done for a couple of reasons that we are going to go over in just a minute here. So, um, having said that, we're going to go ahead and throw it right over to the team preview screen. So there you can see the 6 Pokemon that he brought to the battle on the right-hand side of the screen, 6 Pokemon I brought on the left-hand side. And so as you can see, he brought the Haxorus, Grimmsnarl, Great Tusk, Talonflame, Jolteon, and Empoleon. So he didn't really bring anything this week that I was not expecting. However, as we are going to get into in a minute here, there were some things that I thought he might bring that he didn't end up bringing, just due to the fact that he has a lot of options on his team, a lot of choices as to what kind of a squad or what Pokemon he could bring to battle. So that was definitely an unpredictability factor. So anyway, looking at my team that I brought this week, it consisted of the Hariyama, the Gudra, the Kilowattrel, the Palafin, the Glimora, and the Ogerpon Hearthflame form. So, no real surprises here, I would say, on my side either, just due to the fact that obviously this is the first week of draft, so we haven't really established or fallen into any patterns of what Pokemon that we are more or less likely to bring. So can't really say too much about that, as it is just kind of the maiden voyage of this team per se. So, but yeah, having said that, I suppose we're just going to throw it right over then to the weekly pros and cons. So here you can see our weekly pros and cons. Only one pro this week and 3 cons. And we are going to go over them right now as per the usual. So the only pro of the week I have here is that this was a good game. So this was, as I mentioned in the intro, it was an incredibly close, competitive, hard-fought battle between my opponent and I. Good plays, bad plays, good reads, bad reads. On both sides of the game here, and yeah, it was just it was a really good one all around. Um, and so yeah, I guess I can't really elaborate too much more than that. If you've seen the game, you'll know why, which I assume everyone watching at this point has seen the game. So, but yeah, it was just a really solid one all around, and definitely a highly competitive affair to kind of start the season off. So, but having said that, that is going to bring us to the cons. And so obviously, the big con of the week here is going to be that we lost the game 2-0. So obviously, losing the game is going to really hurt our chances of making it to playoffs, which is, of course, the ultimate goal for us in every season of Draft League we're in. So obviously, that has to be the big con of the week every time we do lose. But other cons of the week here include the fact that my opponent's team was actually very difficult to prep for this week. And what I mean by that is, looking at my opponent's full roster top to bottom, it is one of the deepest rosters in this entire draft league. So he has a lot of potential threats, a lot of potential options that could come on any one given week. So obviously that makes it more difficult to prepare for the team, because you don't know exactly what he is going to bring. So that definitely made things a little more difficult for me to try and game plan his team. But of course, the other con of the week is going to be the giant elephant in the room surrounding this game, which I'm sure all of you who've watched the game will already know what I'm about to say before I say it. But we're going to go over it here, of course, and that is going to be the hacks. So there was one specific hack and one specific moment in this game that really drastically swung the momentum in my opponent's favor that I believe ultimately ended up earning him the victory here. And that, of course, is going to be about midway through the game, maybe a little less than that, I want to say. We had a situation where I had the Palafin hero form in on the battlefield versus my opponent's Great Tusk. The Great Tusk was chipped down to about a third HP at that point, and so I have a couple of options as to what I want to do here. I could make the obvious play and go for the Jet Punch and take that thing out. As I know, based on my spreads and his spreads from that range, the Jet Punch definitely KOs. Or I could predict the switch and go for something else. So I unfortunately decide to do the latter, and I decide to go for a flip turn. Now, I know he's going to outspeed me because he has a couple of speed boosts up from rapid spins. However, I know that there is no way that he is going to KO me with any attack based on my spreads, and no matter what his spreads are as far as that goes. As far as his offenses go. However, unfortunately, as mentioned, he does outspeed me, goes for the close combat, actually ends up getting a critical hit, and that ends up one-shotting my Palafin, taking it out. So obviously that is a hugely devastating situation for me because I end up having to lose basically my best Pokemon for no reason on the team. So that's obviously devastating, obviously crushing. Um, and so, yeah, that pretty much just self-explanatory at that point. Pretty much just swings the momentum of the entire game drastically in my opponent's favor, drastically against me. And unfortunately, despite trying my best to fight back as hard as I could, there wasn't much I could do to kind of overcome that really horrible hack in that one specific moment of the game. Which unfortunately, when you have very close, very competitive matches like this one well-timed hack can easily throw the entire game in one direction or another, as I've seen multiple times in both draft league and non-draft league games. Um, that is just the case in Pokemon. So that is definitely really a hard one for me. I do think in my mind maybe I could have made some decisions better that would have prevented me from being in that situation in the first place. But as the old adage goes in Pokemon, you can't predict the hacks. So, but yeah, so obviously that is an incredibly sour note to start this season of the draft league off on. Going down to the crit there and losing the game. Now, I'm not saying that I definitely would have won the game have had the crit not occurred. I am not saying that. However, obviously, I have to acknowledge that that again, losing the best Pokemon on my team for basically no reason to a hack. Drastically swung the momentum of the game, and had that not occurred, it would have been an entirely different game from that point forward. But as I said, this is Pokemon, and that does happen. It just kind of is what it is. Like I said, sour note to start the season 2 of the BHDL off on, to say the very least, because not only do we start the league at an 0-1 record, but having it go down that way is obviously very disappointing. But pretty much all we can do at this point is just try to shake it off and try to hopefully right the ship with hopefully a victory next week. So, speaking of that, that is going to bring us to our next week's game. And that is going to be against the notorious HIM, a coach that we've faced actually twice before here in Scarlet and Violet. And so the first time we faced him was back in the BHDL1 draft league, and then we did have a free game against him after that as well. And so here's a snapshot of his roster this season. As you can see, it is an incredibly strong roster. Capable of a great many things here. So obviously he's got premier threats like the Dragapult, the Clefable, and the Magnezone. That's a really strong Dragon Fairy Steel core that he has on the team. But He has stuff like the Infernape, which is obviously a premier threat. The Gyarados, which is one of his two Terra Captains here, is obviously a huge threat, but a double threat with it being a Terra Captain. But he also has stuff like the Alolan Muck and the Sandslash, which is actually his other Terra Captain, which could definitely be huge problems for me as well. So, definitely a really powerful roster. One of the top rosters, actually, that we had seen in this league. And so it's obviously going to be a pretty difficult one for me to try and uh, counter this team. But yeah, we're going to have to try and do what we can to try and stop this team, obviously, because we really need to try and get on track here with a win, hopefully. So, yeah, but it is going to be no easy task. As you can see, this is a very strong and very powerful team. So, but we'll see what happens next week, and hopefully good things. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. So thanks for watching again, everybody. Hope you all enjoyed it. Please hit that like button, leave a comment, and/or subscribe if you did enjoy, and stay tuned for more new videos in the future. So that's it, and we'll see you next time.